So in this video, we'll be learning about the filling of orbitals in atoms. Last lecture, we learned about how are the energy levels of the various orbitals, and in this video, we'll be since we know what are the energy levels, we'll learn what are the rules to fill the electrons in these energy levels. So the basic rule or the primemost rule for filling of orbitals in atoms starts with considering the Aufbau principle. So the Aufbau principle is a very important principle, and Aufbau in German means building up. So we are trying to build up the electrons or filling of the electrons in the various orbitals, and this is only possible with this Aufbau principle. So what is this Aufbau principle? It states that in the ground state of the atoms, the orbitals are filled in order of the increasing energies. So increasing energies means what we have to do is so increasing energies, which means that as the energies are increasing, and so will be the electron occupancy be filled, which means that we have to consider that what are the lower energy levels, and accordingly we have to first fill in the lower energy levels and then go on to higher energies. Okay, so what does this mean? In other words, the electrons first occupy the lowest energy orbital available to them and enter into higher energy orbitals only after the lower energy orbitals are filled. Okay, so we have to first keep filling the lower energy orbitals and then go to the high energy orbitals. So if you remember, how do we consider which one is a lower energy or a higher energy? That depends upon the n plus L rule. So what does this n plus L rule tell us? So according to the n plus N rule, the lowest value of n plus L will have the lowest energy. So in that, if we consider for 1s, so n is equal to 1 and L is equal to 0. So n plus L becomes what? N plus L for 1s is equal to 1. Okay. Now in the other terms, if I consider 2s, so we have n is equal to 2 and L is equal to 0. So the n plus L for 2s is equal to 2. Okay. So we know that the lower n plus L value means the lower energy, right? So the first occupancy will be by 1s, the second occupancy will be by 2s. Okay. Now if I consider 2p, so for 2p, I have n is equal to 2 and L is equal to 1. So n plus L will give me what? 2 plus 1, which is equal to 3. So the third occupancy will be by 2p orbital. Okay. So this is how we follow the n plus L rule. And if we have to follow the n plus L rule, and we have to fill the electrons, so we can use this construction. So this is a very famous construction, and this is also mentioned in the various NCERT or other state level books, in which what is done is, how do we build this first? So what happens? So first we have the filling in the 1s orbitals. So as per the rules, the various other rules that are applied, which we'll be discussing in another few minutes about the various rules. So first 1s orbital is filled, and then with this arrow we are going on to the 2s orbital. Then the 2s orbitals are completely filled. Only then we can go to the 2p orbitals, and after the 2p orbitals are filled, we go to 3s. Okay, and this is how the arrow is something that we have to go on, following it. Now, how is this written? So what we do is we first write 1s, then we write 2s, and with 2s, what do we also have? We have 2p. So the same quantum number, principal quantum number values are written in the horizontal line. And from 2s, we'll go to 3s. Okay. Now, principal quantum number 3 has 3p and 3d. Okay. Then we'll go on to 4s, 4p, 4d, and the principal quantum number 4 also has 4f. Okay, then we'll go on to 5s, 5p, 5d, 5f, right? Then we have 6s, 6p, 6d, and 6f. Okay, now if I consider for these, so what I have to do is I have to go from 1s. So what I have to do is I have to put horizontal lines. I guess another color would be much visible. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just put these lines, diagonal lines. Okay, if you see, I have to consider all the orbitals that are in one diagonal and take them on the line. See, so from 3D, 4P and 5S come in one horizontal line. Then if you see 4D, 5P and 6S come in one horizontal line. 4F, 5D, I mean a diagonal line. 4F, 5D and 6P come in one diagonal line. 5F, 6D and 6S. Okay, now all I have to do is I have to just connect these. So connect this way, right? So the arrow from front connects to this ray, right? So this is how we have to keep connecting, and this connection actually is helping us in telling about the pathway of the filling of electrons. Okay, so we'll also read this part. Yeah. So what I have to do is I have to first fill 1s. Okay. So now first I'll be filling 1s. Okay. So first I'll be filling 1s. After 1s is filled, the next arrow that we go along with the arrow is 2s. So after 2s, then we'll fill 2p. Then we'll fill 3s. So after 3s, we'll fill 3p and then 4s. Then after that, we'll fill. So if you see after 3p, we would expect 3d. Okay? Because what do we have? 1s, 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p, 3d. And after that, we have 4s. But if you see after 3p, we are directly filling 4s. Okay? And after the 4s is filled, we will be filling 3d. Right? Now, why does this happen? This happens because of the n plus l rule. So, what is that n plus l rule? So, if I consider 3d and 4s, so what we have for 3d, n is equal to 3 and l is equal to 2. So, n plus l gives us 5. But for 4s, n is equal to 4 and L is equal to 0. So if you see 4s has lower value of n plus s. Okay. So this is why we fill 4s first then 3d. So after 3d is filled, we'll fill 4p and then we'll go on to 5s and so on. Okay. So this is how we have to do the filling according to the Aufbau principle. Now, we also have to look at the filling of orbitals, and there are two other important rules, which is the one from them is Pauli's exclusion principle. So what does Pauli's exclusion principle say? That no two electrons in an atom can have the same set of all four quantum numbers. Now if you see, we have learned the four quantum numbers: the principal quantum number, the azimuthal quantum number, the magnetic quantum number, and the spin quantum number. So any electron you take in an atom will never have all these four quantum numbers same, right? So if this is the case, then we can apply this. Let's say if I have one s orbital. Okay, so I have the first 1s orbital. Then, okay, we'll come into the filling. We'll just look at the words, in other words, what is it saying and how many maximum can we fill. So what does it say? Only two electrons. So this is very important. Only two electrons may exist in the same orbital, and these electrons must have opposite spins. So when I consider any one orbital, the maximum occupancy that I can do in an orbital is 2. So the number of electrons that I can fill is equal to 2. Okay, and this also helps in calculating the capacity of electrons to be present in any subshell. Okay, now I know that there are two electrons in 1s orbital, right? So I've drawn these two electrons. Now let's look at the various quantum numbers that these electrons will have. So let's say it is in 1s. So for both the electrons, so I'm telling this about the first electron as well as the second electron. See, although we cannot differentiate the two electrons, but we just to look at the various principal quantum numbers that these take, so we are just differentiating them. So n is equal to 1 for both of these. Okay, the value of L is equal to 0 for both of these because both of them are present in the 1s subshell. Then ml is equal to also 0 because ml is what? Minus L to 0 to plus L. but then L itself is 0, so it only Ml only has a value of 0. Then the value of Ms, if you see, if you remember, in one orbital, what can we fill? We can fill a plus half and a minus half, if you remember. So we have a up spin and a down spin. Okay. So if you see, the three quantum numbers are same, but then this fourth quantum number, which is the spin quantum number, is different. So this is what it is saying. No two electrons in an atom can have the same set of all four quantum numbers. So even in the same orbital, both the electrons cannot have the same quantum numbers. No quantum number. So let's say more than like three quantum numbers at the most can be same, but then the fourth quantum number would be different, which makes that the all quantum numbers for any two electrons in the same atom cannot be same. Okay. Now this also helps in calculating the capacity of electrons to be present in any subshell. So I know, like in orbit one orbital, if there are two electrons, then I can calculate in any subshell how many will be the total number of electrons. Okay. So if I consider for an s orbital, I will have the maximum occupancy as equal to 2. Then for a p orbital, I know what are the values of Ml. We have -1, 0 and 1. So these are the three different orbitals. So all of these orbitals will have a maximum occupancy of 2 each. So the maximum occupancy for p orbital will be equal to 6. Then if I consider d orbital, we have the Ml values equal to -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. If the maximum occupancy for each orbital is 2 each, so what do we see in totality? We see that there are 10 electrons that are present in the d orbital. So the maximum occupancy is this much. Okay. Now we have some rules, and so we can see that if we have to formalize or generalize this. So if I have a principal quantum number n, then the maximum number of electrons that can be present is equal to 2n squared. See, if I have a 1s orbital, okay, so we can do this for 2, then for 3. Okay, now for a 1 orbital, principal quantum number n is equal to 1. It only has an s shell. S shell has a maximum occupancy of 2. Now if I substitute this in 2n square, so what will I get? 2 into principal quantum number n is equal to 1 square, which is giving us 2. So the maximum occupancy of electrons in a 1s subshell is equal to 2. Now if I consider principal quantum number n is equal to 2, so this has s and p. So for S, the maximum occupancy is 2, and for P, if you see, the maximum occupancy is 6. So 2 and 6, so total is 8. Okay. Now if you see, do we get 8 from this calculation or not? So 2 into 2 square, because n value is equal to 2. So this gives us 4. 2 square is 4 into 2, which is 8. So we see that the maximum occupancy is 8, and this is what we calculated or we determined with the help of the maximum occupancy values. Okay. Then we also have okay, 3. N is equal to 3. Principal quantum number n is equal to 3. Now for 3, we know that we have S, we have P, and we also have D. So for S, the maximum occupancy is 2. For P, the maximum occupancy is 6. And for D, the maximum occupancy is 10. So 10 plus 6 is 16 plus 2 is 18. So this is what we get with respect to mere manual calculations. But when we apply the formula, so this is 2 into n is 3. So 3 square. So 3 square is equal to 9, and 9 into 2 gives us 18. So this is what do we get. So both are same. So we understand this formula is applied for the number of electrons. Okay. So remember, then when we have to calculate the maximum number of electrons, only then we use this formula. Okay. Now we have learned various different methods of calculating the number of orbitals or the number of electrons, and now we'll just formulate all these together into a few like 6 points. Okay. Then so if you look at each point, we'll understand. Let's say the first point, the number of subshells in a main energy level is equal to n. Okay. So how do I tell? How can I explain this? So in a main energy level, so let's say 1, n is equal to 1. So how many subshells do I have? So I just have S. So what are the number of subshells? 1. Now if n is equal to 2, then what are the subshells? S and P. So the number of subshells is also equal to 2. Then if I have n is equal to 3, I have S, P and D. So the number of subshells is equal to 3. Okay. Now when I have n is equal to 4, we have S, P, D and F. So the number of subshells is equal to 4. So the number of subshells in any energy level is equal to n. Okay. Then we have to learn the number of, so this is of, the number of orbitals in a main energy level is equal to n square. Okay. So they are just talking about the number of orbitals and not about the number of electrons. Okay. So if I calculate the number of orbitals, let's say I have n is equal to 1, then the number of orbitals will be what? N squared. So what do I have to do? I have to calculate n squared. So this is also equal to 1. Now if I have n is equal to 2, so n squared will be 4. So how do I have the number of orbitals equal to 4? So for S I have 1 orbital and for P I have 3 orbitals. So this will give us equal to 4. Now if I have n is equal to 3, so then 3 square which gives us 9. So this will be what? 1 for S orbital, 3 for P orbital and 5 for D orbital. So these are the number of orbitals. So if I calculate, if I add 5 plus 3 plus 1 which gives us 9. Okay, so this is also right. Now if I calculate for n is equal to 4, then 4 square is equal to 16. So we know that for S it is 1, for P it is 3, for D it is 5 and for F is 7. So this gives us what? 7 plus 5 is 12, 12 plus 3 is 15, 15 plus 3 is 16. So we are only calculating the number of orbitals. So the number of orbitals is equal to n square. Okay. Now when we were learning the principle, the magnetic quantum number, we also then learned that the number of orbitals in a subshell is equal to 2l plus 1. So if you remember, okay, so if you remember that, if I had L is equal to 0, so then there is just one orbital. When the value of L is equal to 1, which is a p orbital, so we have minus 1, 1 and 0 and 1. So what was it giving us? It was giving us a number of orbitals. We had also done a statement that the number of orbitals is equal to the uh, magnetic quantum number. Okay, total number of orbitals that we have, we can calculate that from the magnetic quantum number. So we have three different orientations and which we understand the orientations is equal to the number of orbitals. Okay. So for P we have 3. Okay. Now the number of orbitals can be calculated from ml value. So this is what we have the formula for ml also. ml tells us the orientations and it also tells us the number of orbitals. Then the number of electrons in each orbital is equal to 2. Okay. Now if I know that the number of I know the number of orbitals. Okay, so let's say I have the number of orbitals is equal to 2 in the first shell is equal to 8 in the next shell and is equal to 18. Now I know, okay, so this was the number of electrons. So if I consider this, so I know that there is one orbital in the principal quantum number n is equal to 2, 2 orbitals n. So if I talk about this is the number of subshells. Okay, so the orbitals is given by this formula. So if I know the number of orbitals as 2l plus 1 and I know that the number of electrons in each orbital is equal to 2, I just have to multiply these two to get the total number of electrons in any subshell. 2 into 2l plus 1. Okay. So let's say if I apply this. Okay. So if I have L is equal to 0, which means it is an s orbital. So this will give us what? 2 into 2l plus 1. So this is equal to 2 into 0, which gives us 0 plus 1. So this gives us 1 and 1 into 2 is equal to 2. So the number of electrons in an s orbital is equal to 2. Now if I have L is equal to 3. L is equal to, the next number is L is equal to 1. So if I have L is equal to 1, then this is what? A p orbital. So I have to do 2 into 2l plus 1. So this gives me 2 into 1 plus 1. This gives us 2 into 1 is 2 plus 1 3, 3 2s are 6. So the maximum number of electrons in a p orbital is equal to 6. Similarly, we can do for d. So for d, L is equal to 2. Okay, so 2 into 2L plus 1. So this gives us 2 into, the L value is 2 for d orbital. So 2 2s are 4 plus 1 gives us 5. 5 2s are 10. So the maximum number of electrons in a d orbital is equal to 10. Now there are two ways of calculating the number of orbitals. So we can use n squared or we can use 2L plus 1. Okay. So what are the ways in which we can calculate the number of orbitals? So one is n squared and one is 2L plus 1. So either from the principal quantum number or from the azimuthal quantum number, we can calculate the number of orbitals. Now, for each orbital, we know that the number of electrons is equal to 2. Then, so in such a case, if we know the number of electrons using any of the formulas, we can multiply them by 2 and then we can get the maximum number of electrons. So there are two formulas for the number of orbitals. So if you see that there are two formulas for the number of orbitals, one is n square and the other is 2L plus 1. So one is using the principal quantum number, the other is using the azimuthal quantum number. Okay. Now both the formulas can be used for determining the values of maximum number of electrons. So if there are two formulas for finding out the number of orbitals, then there will also be two formulas to calculate the maximum number of electrons. Okay. So these two formulas will be used depending on the question what they have given, either the value of the principal quantum number or the value of azimuthal quantum number. We can apply to both. So I have to just do a multiplication of 2 with this formula or a multiplication of 2 with this formula. So multiplication of 2 with this formula will give us a total number of electrons in the particular subshell, or we can also multiply with n squared or 2 and we can get the total number of electrons in any main shell. Right? Now, how is this practically being used? So what will this tell us? The first one, okay, so the first one gives us from n squared. So if you see, I can get from a principal quantum number the total number of orbitals. So considering all the subshells, be it S, P, D, F, it will add all the values and give us the total number of orbitals in that subshell. Okay. Now if I apply this to 2L plus 1, so it will give me the total number of orbitals in any values of L. So if the values of L is equal to 0, which is a S, then value of L is equal to 1, which is P, value of L is equal to 2, which is D, and then, okay, I'm on other way for this. So value of L is equal to 2 for D, and the value of L is equal to 3 for F. Okay, so this will give me particular orbitals in particular values of azimuthal quantum number. So for L is equal to 0, so 2 into 0 plus 1 will give us 2, which will give us 1. So 2 into 2L plus 1. So the maximum electrons in an s orbital is 2. Then for P, 2 into 1 plus 1, which gives us 3 plus 3 into 2, which is 6. For D, 2 is 4 plus 1, 5 into 2 is 10. And for F, 3 into 2 is 6 plus 1, 7, 7 2s are 14. So this is giving us in particular orbitals and this is giving us in the main shell, right? So this is how it is applied. Now the last rule that we have to apply when we are trying to fill the electrons is the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Now what does this rule states? It states that the pairing of electrons in degenerate, so degenerate we had learned which have the same energy. So in degenerate orbitals belonging to a particular subshell. So let's say if I'm filling p orbital which has three subshells, three orbitals. So if I'm filling d orbital which has total 5 orbitals into this, or if I'm filling an f subshell, so s, p, d, f are subshells. Okay, so s, p, d, f are the subshells and the various number of ml values gives us the number of orbitals in these subshells. So each subshell will have some number of orbitals. So for S subshell, the number of orbitals is equal to 1. But when for P, D and F, the number of orbitals is more than 1. So like let's say for P we have 3 and for D we have 5. Okay. Then how are we going to fill the electrons in this? So what we do is, the pairing of electrons in degenerate orbitals belonging to a particular subshell does not take place till each orbital is occupied by a single electron with parallel spins. So I have p orbitals, so I have the values of ml as -1, 0 and 1. So what are they saying? The pairing will take place only after each orbital is occupied by a single electron. So there are three orbitals. So I will have to fill the first electron. So I have to show this with spins. So if I show with a plus spin, we show it just by one half-sided arrow. Then I have to not fill in the same orbital. I will have to fill in the next orbital, and this will continue till I have filled all the orbitals which are filled, which are half filled. So what is a full-filled orbital? When it has two electrons. So two electrons is a full-filled and one electron is half-filled. So when all the orbitals are half-filled, only then we can start, pairing the electrons. So only after that we can start pairing. So if you see, when is the pairing starting? So the pairing is starting. So there are three electrons that are filled in this way. The fourth electron is where the pairing starts. And then the fifth and the sixth also do pair. Now if I consider, so this was for a p orbital. So if I consider for a d orbital, so I have -2, I have -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. So how will I fill? So I will be filling 5 electrons which are singly filled and all the orbitals are half filled. Okay. Only then when the 5 electrons are filled, I will then fill the 6th electron as the pairing, right? So this is what we understand. So for a p orbital, the 4th electron will do the pairing. For a d orbital, the 6th electron will do a pairing. And for f orbital, the 8th electron. So how do we have the 8th electron for an f orbital? So for f, we know that the total number of subshells is equal to 7. Okay, so the 7 electrons will be singly filled into each orbital if we have 8 electrons, let's say, and only then the 8th electron will be paired. Okay, so the 8th electron is causing the pair. Now if I have to learn the electronic configuration, now I know how I have to fill, but then how do I denote the electronic configuration? So the distribution of so what is electronic configuration basically? The distribution of electrons into orbitals of an atom is known as its electronic configuration. Okay, now these can be represented in two ways. So the first type of notation is the orbital notation. Let's say if we have electrons in the s orbital and if I have one electron, so the electron number is written as subscript after the orbital. Now let's say if I have 2 electrons in s orbital and 3 electrons in p orbital. So this is how it is written. Okay. And the second way is the orbital diagram notation. So orbitals are drawn, the orbitals are drawn as boxes, and the electrons are filled into these boxes as if the electrons are filled into the orbitals. So the number of orbitals for a p subshell is 3 and the number of orbitals for a d subshell is 5. So for p, we have -1, 0 and 1. For d, we have -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. So this is the orbital diagram notation. Let's say if I have 3 electrons in p. So by Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, I will first fill 3 electrons singly. And let's say if I have 4, then the 4th electron will pair. Similarly in D, if I have let's say 5 electrons, then I'll fill them singly. And the 6th electron is the one which will get paired. Okay, so this is the orbital diagram notation. The next, so we can apply these orbital diagrams and the other notation for these atoms in the periodic table. So let's say if I have hydrogen, so hydrogen there is one electron, and this will be 1s, and the first electron will be the 1s. So we'll draw the Aufbau diagram so that we understand it a little better. All I have to do is I have to straight lines, keep them in my time. So this is how the orbitals will take place. Okay. Now the first electron will go in the 1s orbital Now when we have helium, we'll have 2 electrons. So the atomic number is 2. The electrons will be in the 1s orbital only. Then if I have lithium, so the capacity of 1s orbital is over. The next electron can be filled in the 2s orbital. So 2s1. Then we have beryllium. Beryllium atomic number is 4. So this will be filled in the 2s orbital. Then I have boron. So boron will be 1s2, 2s2, and the next electron will be filled in after 2s will be 2p. So 2p1. Now boron is in the P block. So the electrons have started filling in the P block. So after that, if we have carbon, so the electrons will be filling in the P orbital itself successfully. So this will be 2p2 for carbon. So if I just draw the P orbital, so this will be 1 and 2. And then it will start filling successively. So next we have nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine and neon. So nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine and neon. So this is 7, 8, 9, 10. So 1s2 and 2s2 remain same. So this will be 2p3. So 2p3 will be 3 electrons singly filled. So this is a half filled orbital. Then oxygen will be 2p4. So 2p4 will be 4 electrons. Okay, then we have 2p5. And at the last for neon, we have 2p6. So all the 6 electrons are filled in the orbitals successively. Right? Now, after neon, the next atom is sodium. So sodium has 1 electron in the, so after 2p, we'll be filling in 3s. So what it is actually, it is same like, so sodium is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, and then 3s will have 1 electron. So this electronic configuration is same like neon. So this is electronic configuration for neon. Okay, so we can write for sodium as neon and then 3s1. Okay, then we have magnesium. So magnesium will also be neon and then 3s2. So this will simplify our electronic configurations. Then we have aluminium. So this will be filled in the, so after 3s2 we have 3p. Okay, then p orbitals will successively fill. Then next we have potassium and calcium. For after p orbitals are filled, we will be filling the 4s orbitals. So if I have, let's say, potassium, so potassium will be, so the last electronic configuration will be argon, like in the previous case it was neon. So then for potassium it will be argon that will be following, and then after that we will have 4s1. So 4s1, and then for calcium we will have argon and 4s2. So this is 4s. Okay, so after we are done filling with 4s, the next we'll be filling the d electrons. Okay, now this is where we have started filling the d block. Okay, this is our d block, and if you see for the fourth period, what we are filling the 3d electrons. Okay, so successively we'll be filling d1, 3d1, 3d2, 3d3, 4 and 5. Here we'll have a half filled stability, then d6, d7, d8, d9 and d10. So this is where all the d electrons will be filled, and after the d electrons are filled, we'll be filling the 4p electrons. So from here onwards, we'll be filling the 4p electrons. Okay, so till krypton, it will be 4p6. Then similarly, we'll go for this where we will be filling the 4d orbitals in the fifth shell. But after we are done with filling all these, then the next electronic configuration that comes up here, which is 4f. Okay, so this is where we fill this. This is the F block, and this is our lanthanide series, and this is our actinide series. So the lanthanide and the actinide series are filled progressively. Okay, and what are filled actually? The electrons in the F orbitals are filled. So 4f orbitals. So if you see for the sixth, we will have the 4f filling, and after that we will have the 5d filling. Okay, and so similarly for seventh, what will we have? So there's one principal quantum number less for d and 2 principal quantum number less for f. Okay, so let's say for lanthanides it will be f0, f1, f2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here we'll have a half filled stability, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14. So here we'll have a full-filled stability. Okay. So this is how we'll be filling the electrons progressively. So there are two, so let's say if I consider this, so there's an exception for chromium and copper. So chromium, so this is what? 3d4. Okay. So this is 4s2 and 3d4. So if I fill this, this will be first filling in the s orbital and then we'll be filling in the d orbitals. So if you see, the d is not half filled. So what happens? This is the expected electronic configuration 4s2 3d4. So this is expected. But what is seen actually is that this electron moves from 4s to 3d. So this becomes what? 4s1 3d5. So this is the observed electronic configuration. This observed electronic configuration is achieved because both of them have half-filled stability. And this is very important. Similarly, for copper, we have 4s2 3d9. So this is 4s2 and 3d9. But then even in D9 case, we don't have a full fill stability. So it is just one electron less than the full filled. And why am I talking about the stability? There are also two reasons for the stability. So what will happen? An electron will shift from here and to here, and this is what we get. So this is 4s1 and 3d10. So this is the observed electronic configuration for copper. So these are the exceptions. Okay. Now, why do we have a half and full fill stability? Okay, so now if I consider a half-filled stability in case of D, so there are two major reasons. One being the symmetry. So since electrons are present in all the orbitals at various positions of the d orbital, we can see that none of the electrons shields other electrons. So it is not, the one of the electrons is not being shielded or being stopped by the other electrons. All of them are getting equal attraction from the nucleus. Okay. So the symmetry always introduces stability into the system. So the first reason being symmetry. Okay. The second reason for the stability is the exchange energy. Okay. So exchange energy. So what happens when the electrons are, let's say, half filled? So this is a half-filled configuration. So when the electrons are half-filled, then what can happen? The electrons can exchange among themselves and this releases the energy. So when this releases the energy, this makes the system stable. So let's say the electrons actually cannot be differentiated. But let's say if I have to see if there are exchanges happening for the first electron with the other orbitals, with the electrons in the other orbitals. So these are the four possibilities. Let's say the first and the second position, like the first and the second electrons are being shifted. So what will happen? So this will be, the electron will come here and the first electron will be at this position. Okay. So this is how it can shift, and it can also shift at other positions. So if you see, so there are four such combinations, four such possibilities. Now if I consider for the second electron, so second electron can shift to third, fourth and fifth. So with the first we have considered already. So there are three possibilities for the second electron. Similarly, there will be two possibilities for the third electron. So this is the third electron. So it can exchange with the fourth and the fifth. And the fourth electron can have one exchange with the last electron. Okay, so there are two possibilities here and one possibility. So in total, 4 plus 3, 7, 7 plus 2, 9, 9 plus 1, 10. So there are maximum number of exchanges happening in a half-filled and even more in a full-filled. So this is the reason why half-filled and full-filled electron configurations are more stable. And this gives us a conclusion that whenever an orbital can achieve a half-filled stability, it will always try to do so, even if there are
even if it doesn't follow the Aufbau principle. So by Aufbau principle, actually the 4s electrons should be first filled and 3D later. But to attain the stability, even this rule is sometimes not followed. So this was about the chapter. You can have a look at the chapter from the NCERT textbook. When you read the chapter, you will get a good understanding about the chapter. And in the next video, we'll be discussing about the questions from all the previous years. Thank you.